Hello, Nico Blaze here, and as you can see, today we're going to be reviewing the Resident Evil trilogy. The reason I wanted to do the Resident Evil trilogy today is because I think a day or two ago, Resident Evil 3, the remake video game just came out, and I thought, why not? And you guys, I'm a huge fan of the Resident Evil movie trilogy. I know I'm probably going to get some crap for that, but just hear me out, okay? Like, they're not that bad. Okay, let's just start out with the first film. Resident Evil. The first Resident Evil I remember I watched when I had to be 6 or 7 with my mom. And at the time I didn't understand it. And to be honest, still to this day as an adult, I don't understand it. Because, okay, I guess it's supposed to be like the first Resident Evil video game that they're like in a mansion or whatever, but in the movie they're not in a mansion. They're actually below a mansion in like the Umbrella Hive and stuff like that. And pretty much nothing in this movie besides the ending really impacts the rest of the trilogy. And pretty much I'll give the first movie 3 out of 5. Yeah, 3 out of 5. The second film, however, one of my top favorites. Resident Evil Apocalypse was amazing. It had 10 times more action. It had zombies, which I love, and I'll tell you guys in the future why I like have such a passion for the zombie like world or whatever and stuff. But oh yeah, I didn't tell you guys yet, but the woman who stars in all these films is Mila, I hope I'm not bombing her name, Jovovich. Absolutely love her, love everything she does. But back to Resident Evil 2, unblur, oh thank you. Pretty much in the second film, it kicks off right where the first film let off. Alice is walking the streets of Raccoon City. Everything is like destroyed. There's newspapers everywhere, abandoned cars, blood splattered on the walls, pretty much leaking that the T-virus escaped the facility. And the T-virus was pretty much what made people into zombies. And like the BOWs and stuff like that, like bioweapons and stuff. So pretty much in the second one, she's trying to save this doctor's daughter. And it made more sense because at the end of the day, we got to see more of Umbrella for who they were. Like the kind of conniving, evil corporation that only cares about themselves. So, pretty much, and one of the cool things about it is that she ended up fighting Nemesis in the film, which has no connection. Well, it has a connection to the video games, but it has no relatable trait to the one in the video game. Okay, so to the next one. Resident Evil Extinction. Okay, people, this is where they lost me. Like, I love the films, but it's like the story-wise, they lost me. Pretty much at the end of the second film, Alice and the group are all like dressed in Umbrella uniforms and they drive off. The third film picks up with Alice alone going through like the deserts of Nevada, like trying to escape like Umbrella because they had put something inside of her. Oh, that's why I didn't say. The second film, Alice is enhanced. She's faster, stronger. She has a healing factor, and she's I don't know if they ever touched base on it, but if she ever got bit, I don't know if she would turn or not because she had the T-virus already in her. But anywho, in the second film, they kind of turned it into that she has superpowers. She has telekinesis, and what else does she have? Yeah, I think just telekinesis. And well, in the third film, she's by herself, and eventually, I don't know if it was by fate or by just crappy writing, she ends up back together with her old crew, minus a few people, and introduce some new people, Claire Redfield. And guys, the third film, it's enjoyable, but the story does not make sense. Like, okay, Alice and the crew were gonna, like, they were fighting so hard to make sure that what happened in Raccoon City never happened to the rest of the planet. So this skips a few years ahead, I'm guessing, and they obviously failed because it's extinction. There's not that many like humans left on the Earth. Most of the Earth is ran by the infected or Umbrella. Not much to say about that. Oh well, no. One thing at the end, which kind of threw me off altogether. Alice found other clones of herself, and moving on to the Resident Evil Afterlife, the fourth film, she wakes up the clones, trains them, and they all team up to attack a base in Tokyo of Umbrella. All the clones get destroyed. Pretty much, Japan gets bombed and wiped out. And what I can't pronounce his damn name. Wesker took Alice's abilities away. So the first time since the first movie, Alice is human. She has no powers, no healing factor, no accelerated healing, nothing like that. But through crappy writing, like I said before, it didn't really stop her from doing the badass crap that she did in the other films. She was still doing like the extreme stunts and the fighting and stuff like that. Pretty much, you would believe like this chick is the Terminator almost. But pretty much in this film, they realized that they thought that this place named Arcadia was a safe haven, but it really wasn't. It was actually a cover for Umbrella to collect people and to do experiments on them. So pretty much she meets back up with Claire Redfield, who has no memory, and she was almost kidnapped by Umbrella at the end of the third film, but she ended up escaping with this type of device on her chest that made her forget who she was and what it made her into like Umbrella's puppet. Best way to say it. So pretty much at the end of the film, Alice, Claire, and Chris Redfield. Chris Redfield gets introduced in this film, but doesn't. Chris Redfield like appears in just this one film and never appears again for some weird reason. Then at the end of this movie, it like quickly transitions into Resident Evil Retribution, where Alice is taken to Russia, if I'm not mistaken, and like they are in this underwater base where they're doing these simulators of what happened to the entire planet around the time the T virus got released. Like there's different types of countries that are down there in that base. It's like they redid the Raccoon City incident, Moscow, Tokyo, you name it. Pretty much any major cities or major countries that have cities and stuff like that on the planet, they were doing simulators on how the infection kind of spread. And people were paying billions of dollars just to see it and see if they can change things and make the infected into their own weapons for military use. And pretty much, I have to say this is my favorite one because a lot of the old characters that was in between these two films, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil Apocalypse, they return from the grave in this film as clones. So like Michelle Rodriguez's character, Rain, she comes back in this one. Carlos from part Apocalypse and Extinction returns into this film, and pretty much they're all evil. So Alice has to try to find a way to get to the surface while she has a daughter, which is weird. Like they did a simulator that Alice was a stay-at-home mom with a physically disabled daughter, and I guess the daughter survived the infection simulator, and she really thinks that Alice is her mother. So pretty much, like I said, this is kind of spoilers. Alice escapes with the rest of the crew, and she ends up fighting Jill Valentine, who was also a friend of hers in part 2, who she hasn't seen since Apocalypse. And she ends up slapping Jill out of the trance, and she kind of remembers who she is now. But let's move on to the most confusing film yet. Resident Evil, the final chapter. Okay, people, I'm gonna tell you the story of how everything came to be. In a way, a doctor created the T virus to help his daughter walk again because she had some type of rare disease that she was losing her mobility. But by mistake, the doctor ended up creating the T virus that could reanimate the dead. And that was pretty much it. In part two, Alice and her friends were trying to rescue that doctor's daughter, her name was Angie, if I believe. Final chapter does a whole remix of it and says that pretty much Alice is the daughter's clone from the second one. But in this one, the doctor's daughter is somehow an old woman and literally is Alice. So pretty much Alice has the choice at the end of the movie to destroy all the infected in America, but the same consequences, she would have to kill herself in the outcome because she has the T virus in her. So Alice goes ahead and destroys all the infected in America, and pretty much, like I said, sort of a pointless ending because it gets revealed that it only wiped out the ones in America. There's still infected all around the globe that Alice would have to hunt. So if I heard that James Wan is going to be taking over the trilogy and he might be rebooting it, I will be happy if he did that. But I want you guys to know that even though like these are confusing movies, I love them. And if I had to rate all these movies in one, I would have to say, like, for my opinion, it's a solid 3 out of 5. Solid 3 out of 5. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Subscribe, like, favorite. Follow my friend Brie Elizabeth on her channel. She sings, she does vlogs and stuff like that. I think she's gonna start doing movie reviews as well. And let me know in the comments if you guys are enjoying like what I'm doing. Again, I'm sorry like if I'm like kind of glitchy. This is still new to me, and I'll get better. Bye.